Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Blumendahl.
And my name is Rocco Catroni. And we are the Disability Tangent Podcast.
Each episode, we talk about current issues affecting communities while supporting people with disabilities.
Through research, community connections, and resource sharing, we hope to invite everybody to challenge their perceptions of people with disabilities and promote a more inclusive world.
Defined by what the people actually want and not what others think they want.
Come join us on this journey.
I am very excited. I say this every time. I'm very excited to be here today. I am very excited to be here today with the fabulous Isaac Harvey MBE. You know, for those who don't know, because I didn't know what the MBE was about, that means he's been knighted by the king.
Kind of.
You're not a sir. He's not a sir.
Yeah.
I don't have to call him sir, but sometimes I do anyway, just for funsies.
So Isaac, can you clarify that for us? He's
spent some time with the king and got in honors for his services to the disability community, which is really quite cool. And many other things, which we are going to talk about because we are going to introduce Isaac in better terms than what we just did right there.
To be honest, that's the best intro I've ever had, actually.
Maybe
sorry, thank you.
Isaac, would you please share with us, we've shared your name, what are your preferred pronouns and any identities that you wish to share? And then tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my preferred pronouns would be he, him. And I prefer a person with a disability, but I'm not one to say this is the term that you should be using. Everyone should have their own term that they feel comfortable with. I was born with a disability called limb pelvic hypoplasia, which means I have no upper limbs, short legs, a weak pelvis, meaning I'm not able to walk, but I use a wheelchair to get around places. I've got scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. And on top of all of that, I have acid reflux, which is kind of like stomach problems. But that hasn't stopped me from, as you mentioned earlier, being awarded an MBE from King Charles, skiing, skydiving, tall ship sailing, and a very long list of things that I've been able to achieve. And that's thanks to the people who have supported me and always supported me to be the best version of myself.
Yes, you are a pretty good version of, well, yourself, but of anyone, I think. I feel like very impressed by you all the time. Not just as a person with a disability, but as a person. So, yes, thank you for being here today. We are really excited to talk with you some more. And one of the things that I would maybe like to ask, because many of our listeners probably don't have a lot of personal experience with people who have limb difference. And so if there was anything that you could kind of like say to them for how not to make huge mistakes or muck it up when they first meet people with limb difference, what would you advise?
I would avoid doing the awkward put your hand out as if you give me a handshake. I mean, that happens quite a lot, or a high five. It does happen quite a bit.
Don't give Isaac a high five. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No high fives here. I don't like them. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just having that open conversation. Everyone likes to be introduced or spoken to differently, so it's just having that open dialogue from the get-go.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
All right, now I am genuinely curious. Can you please explain the MBE? Is that different than knighted, or is it like a night light, or is it sorry.
Night light.
Oh man. Whoops.
So there's different tiers to it. So you have CBE, MBE, OBE, and then you get knighthood. So CBE is Commander of the British Empire. MBE is the Member of the British Empire. OBE is Order of the British Empire, and then knighthood is when you get the sword, and then that's when you get called Sir.
That's really cool.
So you are on your way up. You have
Yeah,
not been sorted.
I've not been sorted yet. I'm not being sorted yet.
Oh my god.
He's a member of the British Empire.
That's right, yes.
A master of the British Empire.
I think you're a master of the British Empire. Okay. Yeah,
That's
I
a new
feel
one.
like you've come to the States to do some pretty amazing things.
Yes.
Jumping out of airplanes, which I would not attempt on my best day. So I feel like that's pretty amazing. But I mean, you have done a lot of adventurous things, and I feel like people told you that you wouldn't be able to do things. Has that motivated you to do more things, do you think? Or have you you're just kind of an adrenaline junkie?
I think it's a bit of both, really. Well, when I was about to leave school, a lot of teachers and one particular family member at the time basically said to me, if I don't go to university, you're not going to be successful. And at first it's okay, I'll go to uni, but they literally kind of pushed it down my throat that I have to go to university, to the point where it really put me off. It's different to America, but we have from year 7, so secondary school is year 7 to year 12. And then we have something called sixth form or college. I ended up staying in sixth form because college became quite complicated because I needed things in place for me, and getting that in place was just getting a bit stressful. And I thought, I just might as well stay in my school because everything was in place for me to continue. And I ended up doing my A-levels, and that's when I did media studies. And that's when I kind of fell in love with doing content creation. And I've always had a creative mind, but this was kind of like the first time that I could really be creative. And I also just thought the traditional 9 to 5 and the school work life just wouldn't really work with me. So on top of them telling me I have to go to university, I was like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I need to do my own thing. That's how I started doing creative content and just living life and seeing what's out there to be done with a disability. Really, I guess that's how it all started, was from that A-level moment and being able to learn how to video edit and just express myself creatively.
Because you talked about video editing, and I had a question on here about how did you get into video editing, but you just said that you became passionate about that in your ending portion of school. So and then that was something that you wanted to continue.
So a bit of a story. So I even though I did it for my A-levels, in school we had Apple Macs and they had Final Cut as the video editing software of choice in school. And during lessons I had learning support assistants who would help me in class and help me on the computer. But some of them weren't good on the computer, so telling them how to edit a video would have been impossible. So luckily the school recognized this and said, look, we don't want that to affect your grade, so we're going to give you a software that you can use at home on your Windows computer. And I was like, okay, great, that sounds really good. But because I had a Windows computer, they had to find something compatible for my computer so I could do it from home. So they ended up giving me Premiere Pro, but they had no clue how to do it themselves. So they said, here's the software. It's like Final Cut, so you should find it easy to do, which it wasn't. So I had to rely on YouTube tutorials on how to learn how to edit, because I kind of had to get a grade. So I kind of self-taught myself video editing from the ground up. So yeah, I self-taught myself video editing, and through the YouTube journey was when I started getting inspiration from other YouTubers and how they did things, and then I'd search, oh, how would I do that effect, or how would I add that music in that part? So yes, and that's how I started doing my own stuff and then doing it into freelance.
Excellent. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like that it's great that the school was able to kind of support you in that way, but at the same time too, I mean, you still had to do a lot on your own to be able to
That's it.
engage in that. As you were kind of like learning through that process, how did you like interact with the school? Like when you were doing your assignments and that, what was that back and forth like to, complete something? So, it seems like some students in the class were using Final Cut, you were using Premiere Pro, can you talk a little bit more about how you kind of like navigated that?
In some ways, it put me at a slight advantage because everyone had to do it at school, whereas I had to do it. I had the option of doing it at home, which gave me more time to really focus on and doing it. But they had to kind of just rely on me finishing a project and then bring it into school to then show it. And then I'd have to take it back home to complete it. So I guess it was an advantage and disadvantage having it that way because I wasn't really learning with everyone else. Because there would be some lessons where everyone else would be doing it on Final Cut, and I would literally just be sat there, not really being able to work on my project.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just had to kind of watch everyone else. Whereas when I was at home, I just did it myself. So it felt like I was not part of the class in some ways, doing it that way. Even when it came to team projects, I had to take my bit home instead of being able to do it in class. But as we've just said, I think it was good the school did recognize that because otherwise my grade would have been non-existent if they didn't give me the software to do at home. So I'm very grateful for that, for them to recognize that.
Excellent. And to the degree that you feel comfortable talking about it as well, as you're engaging with the software that's on the computer, like what peripherals are you using to be able to do that?
I use my feet to use the computer, and I've always done it that way. And yeah, I've just used a normal laptop. They gave me software which was like, this was back, you probably heard of Dragon
Yeah,
software.
Dragon Speak. Mm-hmm.
So this was back when it wasn't as good. And I would use my voice and it just wouldn't get what I was saying. And I was saying, oh, I'm much quicker with my feet. So I ended up just continuing doing it with my feet. And then as Microsoft has got better, I use the voice dictation now to type out what I want to, like emails and things. And then the advancement of AI now has really helped me in that way. But yeah, it's all mainly done with my feet when it comes to video editing and everything on the computer.
Excellent. And I know you just mentioned AI. Like, what ways has that kind of helped you?
Oh, in so many different ways. I mean, I use it on a daily basis now.
Same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, it's a huge
Saves
game
so much
changer.
time.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely made me a lot more productive. From helping me with emails, using it to help me do content creation, image descriptions. So finding ways that it can help with accessibility and making things more accessible. I found so many different ways that AI can be so helpful within the disability community and beyond. So yeah, I've just been fascinated on its developments, and how quick it's come in just a year. I mean, a year ago you wouldn't think it would be creating high quality images the way it's done, or being able to now have thinking processes. So yeah, it's quite scary, but also I think it's really good in some ways. Yeah.
I totally agree with you because I feel like even on the free version of ChatGPT, now that it has like memory of,
Mm,
oh, I want to make it this way, here's my structure for a blog post or an email. And it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's like, hey, can you, here's 3 bullet points. Can you make the email
mm,
sound good in this structure? And that's freaky. But when you use it as a tool and not as
yeah.
like you are still the creator, you're still the mind behind it. And
Yeah.
as a tool, it becomes a little less scary and more like, oh, this is really powerful. We can really get some stuff done with this.
Yeah, I always say AI should be a tool, not a replacement.
Absolutely.
And AI is only as good as what you put into it. Because if you say something very basic, you're going to get something basic back. So you still got to master it and be in control of it to make the most use out of it.
Yeah, kind of feels like a calculator that way, right? Like it's a
Yeah,
really
that's
powerful
it.
thing, but you got to know what the inputs and outputs are.
Absolutely, that's it. Yes.
Yeah,
Excellent.
definitely.
Do you still use Premiere Pro now, or like what's your editing thing of choice? And this is more just out of curiosity for me because that's something that I've been looking into as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've stuck with Premiere from the beginning, really, and I've just kind of learned over time as it's upgraded over the years. I did delve into Filmora,
Mm-hmm.
Wondershare, when it first came out, and I did like it for a bit, but then again, I felt like I wasn't as control of what I wanted. I feel like I could be a lot more flexible with Premiere because I'm so used to it. And then Descript as well. I know it's a familiar one for all of us, but Descript, I think it's really good for captions. I've definitely used that over Premiere when it comes to captions,
Mm-hmm.
but I find it very difficult to do text-based video editing because I'm just so used to Premiere and the way it's got the timeline set up.
So that's a tool of choice, and it works.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's absolutely, I mean, that's true of all tools. Whatever works for
Mm-hmm.
you is what works,
Yeah,
regardless.
that's it.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you is have you recently taken on any clients that you think our listeners would like to hear about?
I mean, I met these two individuals who want me to edit their podcast. Still thinking about it, but
Oh, yes. Tell us more.
They sound like they really have it together. That's
yeah. So I'm still thinking about it. I'm,
Still,
you know,
we'll
getting
see
hard to
after
get to a
today.
conclusion, but
Yeah, fair.
The more time you spend with them, the more you question whether or not you want to edit their video.
So yes, I it looks like I will be editing videos for the Disability Tension podcast. Yeah.
Really? We're so excited. That's phenomenal. What?
You heard it here first.
Well, as I have all the power, I could just cut this bit out, man.
You totally could.
Exactly. All right, we're gonna start over here, folks. That's
Oh, we're never going to get any work done. We have way
Take
too much
6.
fun. Let's change the subject because this is getting
Sure.
way out of hand. Yeah. No, I definitely want to talk about your most recent adventure, though. We've talked about several of them, but I would really like to hear about Wheels and Wheelchairs and
Yes.
your very recent adventure
Yep.
to Paris.
Yes. So, for context for everyone listening, Wheels and Wheelchairs is an outdoor activity sports club where roller skaters push wheelchair users. When I heard about the concept of wheelchair roller skating, I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. But also knowing that I could do it close to home, because usually when it comes to these activities, I have to go abroad or have to travel elsewhere. But knowing that I could do this in London made it a lot easier. I joined in 2019 and went out most weeks, did Sunday skates, took part in marathons. So we've done a Paris marathon, skate marathon, Istanbul, Berlin, all these different places. And then, yeah, this year, after a long break from the group doing a long haul trip because of COVID and a few other reasons, we did a 5-day challenge where we skated all the way from Brighton to Paris, 121 miles. 35 skaters, 5 wheelchair users, and 8 volunteers. And we got there the day of when the Paralympics started.
Excellent. How long does that trip last in general?
So it was 5 days we ended up doing it, but it was about 8 hours of skating per day with about 2 breaks, 1 main lunch, and then just a lot of skating basically. So it pushed my body to the limit as well as the skaters. But it was such a once in a lifetime experience, because for some people they knew each other, but by the end we were all friends. We all kind of supported each other, and it was a real showcase of what happens when all abilities come together and what can be achieved. It was really great, and even though I was in so much pain, by the end of it I was like, yeah, it was really worth it. Being able to get to the end and get noticed by the Paralympic committee themselves who filmed us entering, I was like, yeah, this was so worth it.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so you were able to be on the official YouTube channel for the Paralympics, right?
Yeah.
A little featurette.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, really, because leading up to the challenge, because my life's just so all over the place, I didn't get much time to really focus on promoting the challenge until end of July. And I thought, oh gosh, when in my head I was like, yeah, I'd like the Paralympics to know about us. I want us to be rolling into the stadium as part of the opening and all of this kind of stuff. But with time, it just wasn't allowing me to really focus on that. But as the challenge was starting, and I think it's like day 3, one of our contacts got a message from the Paralympic committee saying, "Oh, we're seeing what you're doing and would like to feature it." I was like, "Okay, it's good we're getting coverage on this, for the bigger picture, really, as I said, to showcase abilities coming together." But yeah, it was really nice to get that coverage. I don't know if you've heard of The Last Leg here in the UK.
No.
I have not.
So it's a TV program which is run by 3 people with disabilities, and it's quite big here. And we got invited onto the show the day that we had arrived, because they were doing a Paris feature for the Paralympics, and we got a little shout out of what we achieved, which was really nice to get that recognition again. And then the day after, so this was like a late evening show. Finished about 2 in the morning. Got back to the hotel about 3 o'clock. Had 2 hours of sleep because I was invited to be on another news show the day after in the official Paralympic Great Britain house, in Paris, to be on TV for like a 3-minute segment. So I was on
Nice.
2 hours sleep to be on live television. So it was a crazy 48 hours, and I just completed the challenge as well. I was like, I'm absolutely shattered, but
You're
I'll do it
wiped,
for the
yeah.
cause.
Because you just never stop, so you just did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, but no, it was, like I said, all worth it. And I got to see some of the Paralympics as well, which was really cool. Because even though I carried the Olympic torch in 2012 when it was here in London, but I never got to see any of the games in person. So it was nice to finally be able to see the games in person. So I watched archery and boccia, which was really cool. And I was like, yep, you're going to see me in LA in 2028. So I'll be there.
Yes. We want to be there too. That's one
our
of our
goal.
goals. That's our 4-year plan right there, is to be live at the Paralympics and interview some
Cool.
people. And yeah, that would be amazing. So we will
Yeah.
see you there.
Yes.
What are your Paralympic plans? Have you thought that through? Like, you're going to be there just to watch, or do you have a plan for, Isaac wants to compete and here's his sport?
Well, I want as many gold medals as possible because I just need more awards. No,
Yes, you do. Yes. I mean, because how are you going to get the king to like do the sword and give you
You get sorted.
You don't get more gold medals.
Okay, that's how I get sorted. Right, that makes
That's how
sense.
you get. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to Paris, I was like, it would be really cool to see more of a behind the scenes look of what goes into the athletes. Because as a content creator and someone who did vlogging, I always done behind the scenes, what went into things. So maybe being able to capture or following an athlete, Paralympian for a day or whatever, to maybe capture that. I'm not sure what capacity. But if it's an opportunity to be sworded, I'll definitely be an athlete myself.
Definitely. Yes. Because that is the goal, right? Like that is the thing that you need. Absolutely.
It's good to need a minute.
Rocco's losing it. He's like, I can't with this episode.
Oh man, I love you guys. I'm just gonna come out there and say
it's my new term after this, just being sorted.
Being sorted. What are your goals? Being sorted.
I got level 2 sorted.
Are you passionate about accessibility and inclusion, but don't know who to connect with? We welcome you to join the Global Accessibility and Inclusion Network, founded by the creators of the Disability Tangent podcast.
Our mission is simple: to connect communities to available resources and create a supportive network of individuals from all backgrounds. Join us as we unite disability advocates from around the world to share knowledge, collaborate on initiatives, and drive positive change.
Whether you're an experienced activist or just starting your journey, there's a place for you in our network. To learn more and become part of this powerful movement, check out the show notes for this episode and sign up today. Together let's make the world a more accessible and inclusive place for everyone.
So I wanted to ask too. I mean, is Wheels and Wheelchairs like all over the world, or is it mainly like based in like the UK or Europe?
Yeah, we haven't had world domination yet. We're getting there. So Wheels and Wheelchairs first started off from a Paris group who were doing similar activities. The story goes it was a colleague or two friends, one who was a wheelchair user and another who was a roller skater, and they found that Paris wasn't very accessible. So they kind of came together, and their main goal was to make Paris more accessible, but that then came from the pushing and the skating around. And for one of their big anniversaries, they said, okay, it would be great if we did a challenge where we skated from Paris to London for the 2012 games. So they knew how to get to the edge of France, but they needed help getting from the UK side to Stratford, which is where the Olympics was held. So they contacted the skaters here, and they told them what they wanted to do. And the skaters here, they were saying, "What, you want to roller skate and push wheelchairs?" Like, they couldn't really understand the concept because it was just such a random thing to do. But some of the skaters said, "Okay, sure, we'll help you with that." And once they had arrived, all the skaters kind of gave them a greeting. And some of the skaters were like, "Wow, we really need to start something here." And that's how Wheels and Wheelchairs was born. And they started taking people out from a hospice first, and then that's kind of grown into more people like myself knowing about it and joining in.
That's fantastic. And then too, I mean, even just from like a logistics standpoint, does there have to be like a different type of chair when they're roller skating with that? Like I'd imagine, like different wheels or something like that.
So any chair can do, but it's better if it's like a sports lightweight chair.
Hmm.
But then what makes it doable is it's a front wheel attachment which kind of lifts up the front two wheels, because if you go at speed on a normal four-wheeled wheelchair, it shimmies at the
Mm.
front, and that can sometimes cause the chair to tip over. Whereas this front wheel is called a Lomo 360, and that turns it into a free-wheeled wheelchair, and that allows it to have more stability, and also keeps up with the speed. But also it has its own brake on it too. So for extra safety, it's got its own brake with it as
Excellent.
well. So having the Lomo 360 definitely helps. But the only problem with that is it's quite expensive. So you can get a chair, but the Lomo 360 can be quite expensive to buy. But once you have that in place, yeah, it's easy to do.
It kind of opens that up. That's awesome.
Mm.
So yeah, then, going along with that, I mean, are you looking forward to any other like long distance trips like this, or either with Wheels and Wheelchairs or other places as well?
Yeah, I mean, that trip's definitely inspired us to do something again next year. So here in the UK, we have the Lake District, which is like really nice greenlands and smooth pathways and cycle paths. So we're looking to do something in the spring, which may be a 4 to 6 day skate. And also we're planning, we potentially would do another one going into France. So yeah, quite a lot of plans, especially with the buzz that we got from the Paralympics. I think we got to just keep it going really, and seeing where we go from here.
Absolutely. One step closer to world domination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if people wanted to get involved in this, wheelchair users or non-wheelchair users, I mean, what would be the best way to do that? Is that reaching out to the organization, or what do you think?
So if you're based in London or the UK, or if you want to travel over, I mean, more than happy to have you join us on a Saturday morning in Battersea Park, just by contacting us on our Facebook page, which would be at Wheels and Wheelchairs. We also have an Instagram, where you can give us a message, and we have LinkedIn as well. But I would love to see it done across the world. So again, if that's something you wish to set up in your own communities, then more than happy to give you tips and tricks on how to do it appropriately, and so you can start your own group.
start a lakeside Chicago Wheels and Wheelchairs. That would be
Yeah, and I was talking with some friends that do roller derby, and they were kind of talking
Okay.
about something similar of like how to do that. And I think this might be an excellent outlet to have that. Like if there's a structure that people have done in place, and maybe there's ways to kind of like carry that over here as well.
Nice. An
yeah.
Yeah,
excuse for me to come over.
Yes,
absolutely.
brilliant. I love
That's
that idea. Excuses for Isaac to visit. That sounds great. I
it's,
know.
it's it's not for you two, just the roller skating.
Yeah, you don't want to see us. You just want to skate by the lakefront.
Oh, I didn't know you were here. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry about
Oh man,
that.
I had work.
I
Oh,
meant to
woof.
call, but
What?
I got kind of busy.
So, I mean, another question that I kind of had for you is, as you're doing your video editing projects, you're doing all these adventures and whatnot. Like, what are some things that are kind of getting you excited? Like, what's kind of giving you life recently?
That's a good question. To be honest, I think what the community and what everyone's able to achieve. I definitely like seeing the progression that we've made as a community, and how that's allowed me to collaborate with people like yourselves. I mean, it's the power of the internet and LinkedIn that we've been able to connect. And if I didn't join LinkedIn and being able to share my voice as I have been, I don't think I would be where I am today. And just having that opportunity to connect with people across the world and seeing what everyone's doing. definitely gets me like, oh, what's going to be happening next. Of course, that also comes with its challenges, and government's not really helping the disability community and putting a lot of barriers up in place, and
Hmm.
businesses doing something, and it's like, oh gosh, we've come so far and it feels like we're back to square one again. So I feel as much as we've come far, we have a long way to go. But I am excited for the future and seeing what's going to be happening really, and what opportunities and celebrations we're going to be doing next for each other.
Absolutely. And I like that you also mentioned the celebration side of it too, because I think
Mm.
there's, it's always like, what's next? What kind of work are you doing? What's this? It's like, we can also be happy too.
Yeah,
And say, hey,
yeah.
look at this. Look where we've come. We got to look back on this. What worked, didn't work.
Mm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I find that interesting. I was having a conversation earlier today about like people on their journey, on their disability journey, and I was
Mm.
talking about people that I know who are not quite as far as me on their journey. And then I've also recently come across people who have studied quite a bit more about disability history and are learning and defining things in ways that are helpful for me and have done a lot more and are kind of inspiring for me. And so I think there's a lot to be said there about like how far we've come and how far we
Mm.
still need to come.
Hmm.
Like I think a lot of that is about like where we are on this journey, and not maybe just personally but also in a societal way and with
Mm.
government and all of these things. But I don't know, like what would you say, I guess, on both sides of that? Like what do you find inspiring, or who kind of helps you move further, or what, like what are there organizations, are there people, are there things that kind of like help you to keep going? And then, what would you say to people who are still trying to figure it out?
I mean, for me, I didn't see myself being a disability advocate, or talking about my disability the way I am. Because, like I said, when I left school, I just wanted to create content. I had a creative mind. I just wanted to kind of just be expressive in that way. And as I was making the content, friends and family kept saying to me, "Oh, you should really talk about disability in your videos. You could really help people within the community, as well as those to have a better understanding of what people with disabilities can do, rather than that negative portrayal that people with disabilities can't do much, or be seen as the superheroes, or these different
Hmm.
perspectives. Kind of just give people a real sense of what it's about." And I listened to that and I thought, oh, why'd I have to do that for? Why'd I have to talk about disability? It doesn't make any sense to me. So they kept on telling me, I kept on ignoring them. And then I was given an opportunity to do a talk about the obstacles I face, but still I'm able to achieve and get out there and do things. And once I'd finished that talk, um, a woman came up to me afterwards, and she said, I get loads of pains in my legs and I'm always complaining about life. But after hearing your story, it's really changed my perspective on things. And that was the first time outside of my friend and family group, the impact I was making by just sharing my story. And that's when I started being a bit more open about it, talking about it in videos. Even though, when it came to skiing and stuff, I showed adaptive skiing and all of these different things, but I never really spoke about it within these videos. And that was also encouraging people. But I think the biggest turning point was when I joined LinkedIn. Again, I was one of those stubborn people. When I heard it was a professional platform, I was like, why do I need to join a professional platform for? It was known to me as the professional Facebook. I was like, why do I need another Facebook for? But I ended up joining, and it probably was one of the best things I've ever done, by joining, is finding out about Disability Pride Month, a month I never heard of before.
Hmm.
Um, I first thought it had to do with Pride Month, which is in June, and I thought it was just an extension of that, but it was more of just celebrating disability. and I thought, okay, I want to talk about this. And that post I ended up writing went semi-viral, and that's when it kind of solidified that people wanted to hear my story, and that's when I learned so much about the disability community. It felt like I'd been living under a rock before I joined LinkedIn. That's where I learned about image descriptions and adding captions. So it's definitely been a journey of kind of self-discovery, but also learning about others and learning about people's uniqueness and what they bring to the table, and how valuable that can be as a society if we all come together and listen to each other. So yeah, it's been a journey, and I still think I'm on that journey. I'm learning every day. I don't know everything about disability. Some people, when they see you're a disability advocate, it's like, oh, you should know it all, and it's like, no, I don't know it all, and I can't speak on behalf of people who have a different disability to mine, or have a different lived experience to mine, because not all powered wheelchair users are the same to each other. So it's nice to be on this journey of learning and kind of have a bit more of an understanding of humans and life in general.
I appreciate that a lot. I feel like that's one thing that we try to stress is that like everyone's experience is different, and that it's very important to be thinking cross disability, because yeah, sometimes we get stuck in our own like concept of what disability means, but there's so many different ways that people are affected, and we need to be thinking about those experiences as well, as much as we are able, because I think that yeah, strengthens us and makes us better people.
Yeah, and I think that topic's kind of come up on some of the episodes that we had before. I mean, and even just a lot of the conversations Christy and I have had throughout the lend process that you're going through now, Christy, of it seems like it's teaching people that repertoire of like flexibility in general, because like no one person's going to be able to know everything or
Yeah.
respond in a perfect way every single time, but being able to assess a situation and being able to connect with the person and be comfortable with that as much as possible is like a basis. And then you learn more after that. But I don't know, sometimes you screw up along the way. And I think it's that ownership piece that seems to be helping and working. You know, I know that definitely helps me, you know, in the face of that periodically, or when I engage in that. And it's an interesting time.
Yes, and and to go on that, I think for me, it's got to be seen as a two-way street. I feel like as much as we ask people to learn about people, I feel like we should be the ones being educating others too, but not to the point where we're telling everyone our medical histories. I mean, that's not appropriate in any circumstance. But I feel, and it's again, whether people are comfortable in doing, but I feel there are a lot of people who say that people learn, but then are not willing to say anything. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You know, you got to kind of, we've got to help each other basically. But doing it in a way that's comfortable for all parties.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like, right, like respecting each other's boundaries is important, but then also, right, being willing to be transparent. So I think we need to have both, right, and expect both from each other. Like that we'll be honest and transparent with one another, but also when there's a boundary, just respect it.
Yes, absolutely.
There's days I really don't want to talk to you about what's going on with me, not you personally, but like
Wow.
sorry, that came out wrong. There's days that I just
Chrissy's
really
getting
don't
sorted. That's
want to. Oh my gosh. There's days that I am absorbed with my own things, and I don't need to be educating people on those days. But there are definitely times and places, yes, where I feel like if I want the world to be changing, then I also need to be a part of that change. And I'm not saying that it's our responsibility necessarily, like because if people don't want to self-advocate, they don't have to self-advocate. It's not like I'm forcing anyone to do it. I don't think that things are going to shift unless we kind of help people understand how to shift, because it's not natural. I had this thing the other day where like I was doing this therapeutic process and it was like, oh, okay, well, I'm not gonna react in that situation. I'm not gonna react in that situation. I'm not gonna react in that situation. Situation comes up and I react because like that's what's natural to me, right? That's how my synapses fire. That's how my brain has worked. That's the thing that I've done my whole life. And so to change it takes a lot of work. And so even though I want it to change, right? And I want to change it, it still is hard work. And so I think that we can't just be like, hey, everybody needs to accommodate us, but not expect that there's going to be work involved in that, because even when I want it to change for me, it still is work. So I don't think it should be hard, but I also understand that it will potentially be hard for people to shift their awareness and understand things in a different way. And so I want to like be gracious, but I also want to keep pushing people.
I mean, it's not comfortable. I mean, learning anything like this is not comfortable.
Yeah.
Or especially when I learned something, it's like, oh, actually, that's quite obvious. But now I've heard it from someone's lived experience. I think that's how I really take the time to understand and learn about people. So I think, yeah, it's just giving people that opportunity for open dialogue. And hearing different voices, that's how we can really make the difference in this world.
At least we hope, right? And I think that's where a lot of this podcast kind of comes from of, I think, Christy, we might have talked about this a few days ago when we recorded too, that there's, so much push for individuals to do that work and not always place it on others to be able to like relive that trauma, to talk about it, or, educate today, because like you said, there's going to be days where you're like, I don't want to be the teacher. I just kind of need to do my stuff and be left alone. But I think being able to have some kind of outlet like this, and what we kind of hope podcasts like this, or some of the work that we're trying to do to offer how people engage in conversation and how people engage in that dialogue, to maybe use that as some kind of basis, or at least have a little bit more knowledge going into a situation where they can kind of like privately work on this themselves. Because I know there's a lot of people that sometimes are scared too, to even just interact or ask a question, or, like you shouldn't always be entering communities in a way where you are like, I am providing a service, or I am the whatever higher position here. And that doesn't seem healthy either. So, hopefully we're hoping that things like this can kind of help push that in a different direction.
Because I feel, allyship is not having to defend someone all the time when something goes wrong and be that white knight and say, oh, no, you should be doing that. I mean, some people are just not comfortable to confront someone, but maybe reporting it to the police or speaking to a boss that you saw something at work, wherever you feel comfortable with. As I say, it's got to be comfortable from both sides of supporting each other. Or even just speaking to the person afterwards and say, oh, I saw what happened, are you okay? I mean, wherever you feel comfortable in doing and engaging in a way that you feel suits you, that's fine. I think it's just the people who are totally ignorant and feel like, oh, they know best and don't want to do anything about it, then I think that's where problem starts. But we just got to do what's comfortable for people and have the right intention and go from there, really. So basically, we need more listeners to this podcast.
Yes. That's where you come in, Isaac.
You're totally on board with that.
Shameless plug.
Like, subscribe, share. Plaster the world with our logo.
But in all seriousness, I mean, I really like the perspective, that you're kind of offering with this. And the way that you're talking about just kind of going about, doing the things that you're really excited about. And I think that's fantastic. And in the way of, you got to do the things you love, and like finding that community to help you do that component. I think that applies to everybody. This isn't like a, how do they call it? Like the inspiration porn component of it. It's, there's a goal, we have to accomplish this, and how do we bring a community together to make that happen? And I think that's, not in a way to say like, oh, that's inspiring, but it's a lot of work too, though. It's also not like the stuff just happens, so even like the way you talked about wheels and wheelchairs, it was, well, it started as this thing, and then people were like, all right, cool, this is really great. Okay, let's do this humongous thing. Okay, well, now we have to coordinate with people, and it becomes this whole, event of coordinated effort. And that's really, really cool to see. And just fantastic that also ends up, like you said, it also wasn't easy, like your body was really pushed to the edge and pushed to the limit on it, but having that release afterwards is really, really cool, because it's an accomplishment of like, yes, we did this, we came together, it happened. Also, I'm gonna sleep for a week.
Or be on television with 2 hours of sleep.
I still can't believe. Oh my
say
gosh.
I'm gonna rest and then not do that at all. That is like Isaac's MO. He's like, I'm gonna not be on social media, I'm gonna rest, and then like the next day Isaac is back doing something else, because like you just can't seem to quit. You have to start it up again.
I can't even imagine that. And the Christine, I know damn well you were there in one of my classes where it was 11 a.m. and I said, some of us have been up for 10 hours, and people were like, it's 11. I'm like, I know.
You're like, yes.
Like when I was going, when my kids were young, like I can't imagine doing a 2-hour flip around and being like, I'm on television. I'd be.
Yeah. Well, and Rocco, you know me. I'm the like, it's 9 p.m. Everyone can just go to hell because I'm going to bed. So I am not the kind of person who does a 2-hour turnaround. I am like the person who does a 20-hour turnaround. Like I need to now sleep for 2 days and then I will get back to you.
But I was just going to add about, the all the work that goes into it. I mean, that's why I would like to do more behind the scenes content again.
Absolutely.
To showcase what actually goes into the things that I do achieve and the challenges that come with it. I mean, I don't want to do it to a point where I'm showing my reality and, oh my gosh, my life's really hard. Like it's not as just straightforward as, being on the catwalk. It's like the dressing and the clothing and the travel there and skydive, having to contact 13 airfields to be rejected and then finding one in America to do it. It's like there's a lot more than what's seen on the surface. And as much as I do write stories online about these different things that I do, I feel like words and the pictures just not the same as visually seeing
Absolutely.
what I have to go through or what people have to go through. So that's another reason why I want to get more behind the scenes and show the reality of it. This is the challenges, but also these are the things that I can achieve and the celebrations that come with it. Just showing the reality of my life or other people's lives in the process.
Absolutely.
I think that's a really good point, because I think so often people don't see the day-to-day, right? Like they see either the celebration or they see like the really bad moments. So that it's either like you're complaining or you're saying like, oh, look at me. And I think that's one of the reasons that, it can come off as this inspo porn, or you're complaining and you're a drain, or you're, like whatever else. And I think like, but it maybe is because you get these snippets of life and you don't get the day-to-day, where like the people that are with you all the time understand all of that background and all of the things that are going into it. And, I think people don't get all of that explanation. I like Rocco and I interact all of the time. So he knows that I've been through like 8 personal assistants in 5 months, and like none of them are working out for this reason and that reason. And here's like, they don't get paid enough. And here's the crap that I have to go through to get someone approved, and like all of that back and forth that happens. People don't see all of that. And so I feel like when I say something about, oh, it's so hard to get an aide, they're like, oh, like, really? Can't you just hire someone? No, I can't. But I can't explain every time to every person that I've been going through this and that and the next thing in order to make this happen. I think that people just assume that a thing that they can do, I can also do, right? And so I feel like, that day-to-day stuff is the stuff that they don't see. And that's why it's so easy to the inspiring thing or the complaining thing, because they're not looking at it. And even when it's on social media or it's, put out there, they can choose to look at what they choose to look at and take it how they want to take it. And it's just a snippet of your life. It's not the life. So I get what you're saying about that. I think that is a really important thing to show. And then the other thing that I was thinking about, and I know Rocco and I talked about this, like this comparison that people tend to make all of the time, like even some of the announcers on the Paralympics in the United States were saying things like, oh, like, isn't that amazing? Think what they could do if they had limbs, like,
oh,
not
really?
like, wow. And it was like ridiculous because I was like, wait, look what they're doing not with limbs. Like, who the hell cares about limbs?
Well,
like, they just
and some of the
record.
times that people had were like 3rd and 4th place in the non-Paralympics. So it's like,
wow.
Like,
why are we splitting this up?
With a person with limbs, they're still breaking the record. Like, like this is not a thing where like you need to make a comparison. Like, this is a person who is putting their all into this thing, and like there's no reason to think that they would be doing more or better or something, that was like the comparison was ridiculous to me.
That's
and
crazy.
I just thought, like, if you could see how much this person is putting into this, like, would you then make that comparison? What is the reason for the comparison? And if you watch this person live their life, would you then be like, ooh, think how much they could be doing if? No, you would just be thinking like, wow, this person is really working so hard. I don't know. I just thought, maybe it wouldn't change. Maybe those people are just really ableist people and nothing about that is going to change. But I was like, this is a ridiculous comparison to make, that like, this is just a person and like, we don't need to compare bodies. This is what this body is doing. Yeah. This person in this body is doing this. And we don't need to think about what if their body was different. Like, it's not helpful to go through life thinking, what if their body, like, what if Christy was 20 pounds lighter? Well, she would wear different clothes. Like, a different subset of the population would be attracted to her. I don't know. Like, what would be different? I don't know. Like, my life would have less cake in it and I would be more miserable. Like, I don't understand. Why would we do that to ourselves? That was an intriguing tangent for the day.
I don't know how to respond to that.
I don't know why that went that direction. My apologies.
I was going to say, but I feel as a society, we like to compare.
Absolutely.
I think that's a societal thing, disability or not, to compare each other. And I think that's thanks to the media and what's fed to us, like, we've got to have the slim bodies, or we have to be like this, or we have to have a successful job. Like, it's been like that for years. Just kind of trying to get out of that vicious cycle of comparing yourself and kind of just going down your own lane and being yourself.
Yeah. Or maybe noticing the comparisons and being like, oh, that's different. Cool. And then...
yeah, that's it.
Continue.
Right, that's it.
Like, yeah. I'm still not skydiving though, Isaac. I'm sorry. That's
me neither. No, that is it. Yeah.
Listen, we tried 2 times to do that, and on both times the weather did not work. That's divine intervention, right? That's something like, oh, we should try this again. I'm like, I'm sorry, we did no. I worked up to it. I got meant to, like, I'm ready, and they're like, oh no, the weather's bad. I'm like, Sweet, excellent. And then we tried it again. Same thing happened. I'm like, I'm not meant to skydive. That's
You're
That's
like,
valid.
the gods have
no,
spoken.
we're good. I'll take the train. I'll be on the
Yeah.
bottom in the chair, drinking while everybody else is coming down.
I mean, yeah.
Ugh. I think we covered, a couple different things today.
Just a little.
Yeah. But, I really kind of wanted to wrap up with two final questions. Are there any other thoughts that you'd kind of like to share with people in general that we didn't cover today? We'll start there.
Well, there's two things I could say. One is, I think it's great we've highlighted disability and everything like that. I feel it's a conversation like this which is not really spoken about in many places, when anyone at any given time could gain a disability, and knowing that inclusion is for everybody. Who's ever complained that automatic door with smooth pathway is not good? I think everyone can really get into the building or whatever by having something inclusive. So making something accessible for everybody, knowing that anyone at any given time can gain a disability. And also, inclusion should be seen as a journey rather than an end destination. Too many times I've mentioned in talks, when it comes to workplaces, you could have the most amazing workplace in the world, but if it means I have to take 3 trains and 2 buses and 1 taxi just to get there, I probably won't want to perform well at work. So I think it's, again, trying to work out with the person you're working with is maybe a hybrid way of working better for that person, or what's an easier way that we could get you to work so you can work with the workforce, because some people strive being in an office. So I think it's, again, speaking to that person and seeing what works best for them to be able to bring their best at work. So yeah, 2 key takeaways, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it really takes that whole community and setting out that context. I think that's something Christy and I kind of talked about the other day as well, of we get too hung up on the individual or the individual organization or individual person. And it's like, okay, but that person's also living in this city that can or cannot do these things, or presents or does not present these barriers, or in a community that presents or does not present these barriers. And it's, the whole thing. And like you said, even just getting to work, it's like when I get here, awesome, super great. But it took me 2 hours and 3 modes of transportation. So I'm tired now. And you can't appreciate the place that you're at as much when you're in that space.
Exactly.
And then I think for me, the second question is what's the best way that people can get in touch with you if they want to, talk more or learn about what you do, see some of your work in action?
When I tell people that I'm not on social media, when I actually am, happens a lot. You can follow me or connect with me on LinkedIn at Isaac Harvey MBE. And I'm also on Instagram, but I don't really post as much. But that's at I am Isaac Harvey.
Excellent. We'll definitely do that. And we'll put that in the show notes. And, hopefully people reach out in ways that make sense.
Yes.
Yes. Connect. Follow. Keep track of the snippets of your life, and also hopefully some day-to-day.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Gearing up for LA 2028.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
LA.
Yes.
We'll be there doing a live podcast.
That would be cool.
Yes.
It'll be smoother.
Nah, it'll just be the same 4 years later.
Just better editing.
It'll be just like this, but with lots of sunshine. Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here with us, and thank you so much for agreeing to help us edit some stuff. And we are really thrilled about this collaboration, and we are thrilled with you as a human, and
And my face hurts. It's such a happy way. So much laughter today. That was fantastic.
No, I look forward to it, and thanks for having me on as a guest, and also want to edit them as well. I think it's going to be quite cool.
Agreed.
Well, absolutely, it's going to be now.
No, cool.
Well, it was wonderful, Isaac. You're
Yes.
great. I appreciate you. Christy, we'll keep doing the thing, and I'll see you all later.
All right.
All right, bye. As hosts of the Disability Tangent podcast, we love hearing from our listeners. Your thoughts, feedback, and questions are what keep our podcast going and growing.
So if you've been inspired, moved, or even challenged by anything you've heard on our show, we want to hear from you. Share your stories, your insights, and your questions with us by emailing disabilitytangent@gmail.com.
Whether you're sharing a personal story, suggesting a topic for a future episode, or simply want to say hello, we're here and ready to listen.
So don't be shy. Drop us an email at disabilitytangent@gmail.com and let's keep the conversation going.
That's all for today, folks. Until next time, remember to stay engaged, stay curious, and above all, stay connected. Thank you for listening.
Express myself creatively. Am I meant to say more?
I know.
We're at a loss for words.